Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the third edition of the Football Iconic Season Review. I know, look at us. Who would have thought we'd make it this far? Not me. It's been a season of big stories and almost big stories. I personally wouldn't have had it any different. Well, except for, you know. By now, hopefully you guys all know the deal. We're going to be reviewing the 22-23 football season for the top 5 leagues in the world as ranked by UEFA coefficients. In a surprising turn of events, we have, let's see. Oh, England, Spain, Germany, Italy, and France. Shocking. So, where should we start things off?
We are subjected to horrendous officers. I've committed no offense. Please.
Serie A just might be the most exciting league in all of Europe right now. In the past 4 years, we've had 4 different champions, more than you can say for each of the other leagues we're going through right now. The competition and unpredictability has done a lot to bring eyeballs back to what is an extremely historic league. The lucky winners this time around were Napoli. You know what? I don't know why I just said lucky. Winning a major European league by a whopping 16 points indicates anything but luck. They steamrolled the opposition. Plain and simple. First time it's happened since 1990. As a lot of people have pointed out, there's no telling what Diego Maradona's celebrations would have been like if he were here to watch both Napoli and Argentina win big all within about 5 months of each other. We can only imagine. Victor Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia were the standouts of the bunch in front of goal, but the team as a whole represented a fantastic flurry of silky smooth football. Kvaratskhelia, Serie A Player of the Year, showed up out of nowhere and put his name up in lights. And because of their commitment to the game and the unpredictability of the league, Luciano Spalletti decided that he wanted no part in a potential back-to-back win. Dude picked up a winner's medal and immediately chucked up the deuces on his way to a sabbatical. You gotta rate it. For Napoli's sake, hopefully he's the only major departure, but we all know how the game goes. Juventus, on the other hand, haven't been having the best time in the slightest. I mean, the past couple of seasons haven't been great, if we're all being honest. Accused of corruption and cooking the books, docked 15 points. Goodbye Champions League. Decision reversed and points reinstated. Hello, Champions League? Nope, docked 10 points. Allegri's honest reaction says it all. And you know what? If Juve are guilty, good, dock the points. But whether they are or aren't, wait until the end of the season to do so. By doing all of this here and there, you're just adding confusion to the entire equation and taking attention away from every team involved in the race for high finishes. They finished in 7th at the end of it all, meaning that barring any more retractions or, I don't know, unforeseen deductions, we'll be seeing this badge in the Conference League. 10 more points would have made a world of difference. Tough. Milan were singing about Pioli being on fire last year. This year, many were singing for him to get fired instead. Also tough. Paolo Maldini was unceremoniously sacked from his position as technical director, which was not a popular decision. Dude was integral in bringing a lot of big names over to the club. With Daniel Maldini now on loan and Paolo Maldini leaving, this will be the first time since 1978 that Milan hasn't had a Maldini. As for Serie A as a whole, this is a good moment for more than just the domestic scene. Since Inter won the UCL in 2010, Serie A has had 3 semi-finalists in the UCL, 5 in the UEL, and no winners. But fast forward to 2023, we had 2 semi-finalists in each competition and 1 in each final, plus another in the Conference League final. Unfortunately, they all lost. But progress is progress. When Jose Mourinho went to Roma, a lot of people were claiming that he was past it. And you know what? There may be some truth to that. But in terms of entertainment value, the man is back. Bad-mouthing refs and pundits, calling out establishments, Jose will always be Jose. It is a shame that we don't get to see him in the UCL next year, both on account of a 6th place finish and a loss to the Europa League final boss. Judging by snaps of him after the game, I don't think he was too happy about the officiating. Fiorentina went up against former Manchester United great David Moyes in the UEFA Conference League final. For anyone that calls this a nothing trophy, you don't understand the essence of football. This is a European Cup and should be treated as such. The passion and joy on the West Ham players' faces as they lifted that cup, a really good looking cup at that, was enough to tell you what nights like this represent. Seeing David Moyes give his medal to his father was the icing on the cake. And the match itself had some really good entertainment value. Anytime a major trophy is won in the 90th minute, you know it's something special. Also, West Ham had a better season than every other London-based club. It is fact. Inter Milan returned to the Champions League fresh off a Coppa Italia win. The first half that they produced against Man City was an absolute masterclass. They had an answer for everything that City were throwing at them. Simone Inzaghi got his tactics spot on. They made City look nervous, but it's too bad that his team was lacking that killer instinct though. For the chances they were creating, they deserved a hell of a lot more. Even Megan Thee Stallion wasn't enough to stop Lukaku memes from flooding the internet. This guy really can't seem to catch a break in these high-profile matches, can he? On the other hand, a team that finally managed to catch a break in the Champions League was the winners, Man City.
We cannot replace him. We cannot.
As of Saturday, the 10th of June 2023, Manchester became the only city in the world to have two major European treble-winning teams. And I'm sorry, but the most recent treble-winning team is the most superior one. These guys are just so good, it's sickening. While everyone was convinced that Arsenal could go all the way, neither City nor Guardiola looked the least bit concerned. We really all should have listened to Gary Neville all the way back in January.
I don't think City have started properly yet in terms of being serious about this season. Arsenal could hold Manchester City up, but I don't think they will once it starts, the real run. It's going to start till like April.
Arsenal were 8 points ahead when Neville made this comment. Shortly after that, City went on a 15-game streak, drawing once, winning 14. They dropped points at the very end of the season, but they had already won the league by then. 5 points separated them and Arsenal when all was said and done. Erling Haaland proved that he can farm all over the continent. 36 goals in the league, absolutely smashing every previous record scorer, even the ones that had 42 games to do it. With 44 goals plus assists in the league, he's also tied with Thierry Henry for overall goal contributions too, a record Henry set 20 years ago in 2003.
It should have been me! It's not fair!
Kevin De Bruyne was his usual self, whipping up assists like nobody's business. Only 16? Poor campaign in my eyes. Rodri is the best CDM in world football. I dare you to change my mind. And John Stones is somehow one of the best midfielders in the world. Can anyone here explain this to me? I need answers. On the real, we're now seeing people refer to Pep as the greatest manager ever, which is actually not a new argument at all, but when you win 2 trebles with 2 different clubs and cultivate not 1, but 2 teams that have no major flaws and very rarely win by luck, it's hard not to give this claim some serious consideration. Let me know what you guys think. I've seen a lot of Arsenal slander over the past few weeks. I get it, but I don't want to hear it. Sure, they don't have the same mentality and ferocity as the Invincibles that last won it. All the same, you know what? And I know this may sound outlandish to some people. That's okay. They're not supposed to, yet. This team is still incredibly young. The Invincible team had an average squad age of about 28, with players both in their prime and past it. This regular starting 11 of the current side have an average age of 24 and are only getting started. Several times over the season, they've shown themselves to be a formidable force. Arteta, still only 41, has a very bright career in coaching ahead of him. He is gonna have to work on closing out the final stretch in deep title runs though. There was no reason for Arsenal to even be worried when they faced City on match week 33, but having drawn their previous 3, they practically gave the title to City on a platter. Better luck next year. Compared to last year, Man United made progress this season. kinda hard not to when you only put up about 58 points over an entire season in the club's worst ever return in the Premier League era. I am pretty conflicted about this team, and it seems as though this feeling isn't gonna go away anytime soon. Despite some great signings that did well to address a couple of the gaping holes in the team, Casemiro is the signing of the year for United, no doubt, they kick things off in abysmal fashion with losses to Brighton and Brentford in succession. In fact, a lot of people are of the opinion that those losses forced the Casemiro purchase. From long stretches of great performances to losing 7-0 to Liverpool and 6-3 to Man City, to winning the Carabao Cup, to having the whole Cristiano Ronaldo drama dominate headlines. Yes, all of that happened this season. Also, here's a fidget spinner. All the same, I'm kind of optimistic about the future. United under Erik ten Hag is still the same in very many ways. Not his fault on many of those fronts. However, on the pitch, this group looks more cohesive than it has in ages. Depth is definitely needed and there's a lot of work to be done, but when it comes to this guy,
I can see what they're doing, what he's doing. I can see it, I feel it. He's cooking.
After almost winning 4 trophies last season and looking like the glory days are back, Liverpool fans must have thought this year would be something special. It's too bad this guy exists. If things were normal, Liverpool would have, at the very least, 3 Premier League titles in the past 4 years. Sadly, with these guys, normality has been shifted. There was the loss of Sadio Mane, sure, but they also purchased sharpshooter Darwin Núñez, finisher extraordinaire. Okay, that was unnecessary, I admit. He's not that bad at all. Dude put up 15 and 42 this year and was in the 99th percentile for non-penalty expected goals amongst attackers in Europe's top 5 leagues. The 94th percentile for progressive carries too. The slander might have been justified at some points, but it isn't anymore. Salah put up 19 goals and 12 assists, which is incredible, but now it's expected of him, so the shock value is gone. Which may not be entirely fair, but it is what it is. Klopp and the guys had to go back to the drawing board for a lot of things this season. Even a late resurgence of no losses in their last 11 games, including a stretch of 7 consecutive wins, was only enough to secure a 5th place finish. I think none of us can argue that Klopp is only still in a job as a result of all the goodwill he's created at Anfield. Hard to imagine most other managers would be given the courtesy. Time will tell if that decision was wise. On the other hand, we have Brighton, who had a remarkable year under Roberto De Zerbi. The departure of Graham Potter worked out pretty well, I'd say. European football for the first time, and extremely well deserved. Newcastle United, who many expect will compete at the highest level for years to come, are way ahead of schedule when it comes to their progression. Champions League football for the first time since 2004 is nothing to scoff at. It's both a good thing and a bad thing, but opinions and expectations have shifted for this team, so whether they'll be able to do anything productive next year is still to be seen. Chelsea? What in the hell is going on over there? I seen some people on Twitter a while back talking about how this is the worst singular season of any team in Premier League history. I know that some may view that comment as ridiculous. Derby did only get 11 points in 2008, but perhaps it isn't as preposterous of a statement as you think. Almost 600 million spent, yet a 12th place finish. 10 points off the relegation spots. A team the size of the population of a small country, and some of the most horrendous football an elite club has ever produced. Only 2 years after winning a Champions League too. They even scrapped their end of the season awards, which is wild because I was curious as to who the manager of the year was. Lots of candidates, you know. Somehow, Spurs had a better season than Chelsea and they came 8th. Harry Kane with 30 goals wasn't enough to drag his team out the mud. He's gone, for sure. And yet again, we have another London club who are too scared to name a manager of the season. Cowards. Here are Richarlison's highlights. The relegation battle was wild. By the grace of the gods, there were 3 teams that were more dreadful than Everton this year, saving them from the drop. Southampton, Leeds United, and Leicester City. That's right, former Premier League champions, Leicester City. What a crazy fall from grace it's been for them. Southampton were doomed for what seemed like forever. They were awful, yet somehow they were able to take points off Arsenal, Spurs, Man United, and Liverpool. Also, they did the double on Chelsea. Poch, bro, good luck. But we do have to have some sympathy. Relegation is a horrible thing to have to go through for any loyal spectator. It can make you do crazy things, I'm sure. But one thing it should never make you want to do is incite violence, no matter the circumstance. Of course, I'm looking at you, Espanyol. Over in Spain, Barcelona were crowned as La Liga champions for the first time in 4 years and for the 27th time in the history of the great club. And they earned it. It's too bad that on the day they won it, there was an attempt to hijack the headlines by Espanyol onlookers. The title was made official in a 4-2 win by Barcelona over their rivals in Espanyol Stadium, a result that also meant that Espanyol were pushed closer and closer to relegation. The so-called fans rushed the field and started attacking Barcelona players and staff, I guess because of their own team's inadequacies. If you're a stadium goer or just a decent human being, don't do this. Busquets wasn't having any of it. Here's leaked audio of him confronting one of the fans.
If you want some, I'll give it you.
Barcelona were showing flames this year. A very dynamic team and a coach that's carrying the torch of former successful Barcelona players turned manager. They achieved success despite the controversy behind all the lever pulling, the alleged paying of referees, as well as getting knocked out of the Champions League in the group stages. A lot of ups and a lot of downs for sure. They even managed to run back the 2009 and 2011 Champions League final against Man United in the Europa League knockout playoffs. A battle of the ages, for sure. It's going to be interesting to see how they push on next year. Same goes for Real Madrid. For most other clubs, a second place finish, a Copa del Rey, and a Champions League semi-final would be enough to rate their season as good. Maybe not great, but not bad. For Madrid, I wouldn't be surprised if they view this year as a failure. Perhaps the biggest story of the year in some ways, at least in terms of international headlines, was the ridiculousness that Vinicius Jr. was subjected to by opposing fans. How is it 2023 and racist behavior is allowed to go unchecked in football? How is it that a player can have a doll of him hanging from a bridge in January, yet nothing happens for months? Then, as soon as the whole debacle makes international news, suspects are arrested in late May. It's such an ancient problem that whenever spats of it pop up, it's baffling that nothing is being done about it. La Liga's president, Javier Tebas, hasn't done himself very many favors by claiming that there is no problem and that Vinicius only receives abuse because he is good. Saying that Ronaldo and Messi were treated the same because they were good is so dismissive of the problem that it makes you wonder if he thinks his response is through. I'm unconvinced. Back to Real Madrid, they started this year off as they finished last year by winning. The loss of Casemiro didn't seem to be an issue in the slightest, but then, not too long into the year, inconsistency struck. Their aging squad, along with Carlo Ancelotti's waning eyebrow powers, proved to be part of the problem. It's nothing that a generational talent can't fix though, right? Eden Hazard has decided to cut his losses, cash out, and leave Madrid. I've said it in a previous video, but I don't want to hear any more Eden Hazard and Gareth Bale slander ever again. They're the GOATs. End of discussion. Speaking of GOAT behavior, Atletico Madrid pulled off one of the greatest coups in history. Sell Antoine Griezmann for 120 million euros, get him back on loan 2 years later, and eventually end up paying 20 million euros to get him back permanently. He was Atletico's Player of the Year this season. That's what you call business acumen for all you rookies out there. Guy was a monster for Atletico and probably France's Player of the Tournament in the World Cup too. Real Sociedad are making a return to the Champions League for the first time since 2013. Takefusa Kubo, fresh from Madrid, has had an immaculate year. The most man of the match awards of any player in the league. Along with David Silva, Mikel Merino, and the whole ensemble, you can't argue they don't deserve it. And then we have the Europa League final boss, Sevilla. This is getting ridiculous at this point. They finished in 12th place this year, but if you watched them in the Europa League, you wouldn't be able to tell. Since 2014, Sevilla have competed in the Europa League 7 times. They've won 5 of those 7. That's insanity. I touched on it earlier, but even Jose Mourinho's Undertaker-esque streak of never losing a European final was no match for these guys. Somewhere in the world, Unai Emery is shedding a tear. Speaking of tears. The 22-23 Bundesliga was undoubtedly the most exciting we've seen in years. Going into this year, no other team could claim dominance over a 10-year period like Bayern Munich could and still can. 11 years now. It really did seem like things were going to be different this time around though. Bayern were very far from their usual selves, and over the course of the year, infighting and problems from the top to the bottom plagued the Bavarians for months. This was literally the best opportunity that every other team in the league has had to overthrow these guys in over a decade. You'd think someone would seize the opportunity, right? Nope, nobody. But what did we expect? Far too much, that's for sure. Dortmund slipped up at the very final hurdle and produced the biggest choke of the season, by far. It was sad to watch. To make matters worse, no Bellingham, no Guerrero, perhaps no hope next year too. Tough. RB Leipzig tried their hardest to push Bayern off the throne by defeating them in the penultimate game of the season. Dortmund didn't take the assist. But good news for Leipzig, the 14-year-old club managed to retain the DFB Pokal. Christopher Nkunku shone brightly, as he has done so frequently over the past seasons, particularly in the final itself. A goal and an assist encapsulates how important the guy is for the club pretty well, which makes his imminent departure for Chelsea a tough pill to swallow for both Nkunku and Leipzig.
What have I got myself into?
I'm shitting myself.
I can't back out now.
In fourth, Union Berlin qualified for the Champions League for the first time, only 4 years after gaining promotion to the Bundesliga for the first time. If that's not an insane come-up, I have no clue what is. And they're not the only ones. Freiburg, in 5th place, enjoyed a great year. On the surface, Leverkusen looked like they've had a bang-average season. No higher or lower than expected. I mean, perhaps after finishing 3rd last year, there was an expectation that they would do better than 6th. But when you look back on how they were 16th after 12 games played, you start to appreciate where they ended up. Luckily, Xabi Alonso came in to save the day and quite literally saved the season for them. I'm sure there were several inquiries into his availability going into next year, but it seems like he's staying. Going to be very interesting to see what he cooks up next. For the second time in 3 seasons, Schalke have been relegated from the Bundesliga. That's 2 more times than in the 33 years before that. Hey, look on the bright side. At least Dortmund have something to celebrate. At the end of the day, it's the small victories that really count, much like a Liga title. Okay, if you're upset that I said this is a small achievement, I get it, and you're right. It was a joke. It's a major league title, after all. But when your team has 14 of the 15 top players in the entire league, I think certain achievements kind of become formalities. I know some people may point towards Chelsea and Manchester United as examples of what I just said making no sense. However, there was far more daylight between PSG and the rest of Ligue 1 as opposed to between the teams I've just mentioned and the rest of the Premier League. The Champions League is where these guys get truly exposed. Yet again, they've managed to see themselves get eliminated in the first knockout stage. PSG have a lot of explaining to do for the things that happen around this club. Holding Lionel Messi at gunpoint while he apologizes for hopping over to Saudi Arabia is the least of it. Christophe Galtier has racism allegations hanging over his head over a year after they are alleged to have been said. Mbappe is already thinking of leaving his post as sporting director of the club. There are so many questions, yet so few answers. The club really is cursed at this point, with Lionel Messi joining Inter Miami and Neymar potentially on the way out, Ramos gone, Marco Verratti potentially on his way out too, Christophe Galtier probably leaving if we follow the trends of managers for this club. The future is looking uncertain. This is especially the case if RC Lens are able to push them like they did this year. 1 point off them when all was said and done. Yet another team that outperformed expectations this year. Arsenal will be punching air at the fact that Alexander Lacazette took about 5 years off playing football just to vibe in London, only to return to Lyon and score 31 goals in 39 games at 32 years of age. It's a miracle, truly. Did you guys know that Will Still, manager of Reims, did not have a UEFA Pro license at the start of the 22-23 season? Because of that, Reims had to pay 25,000 euros for every game that he managed without the license. Also, he's 30 years old, Belgian and English, claims Football Manager made him a better coach and swears when he speaks to his players.
Reste lucide là-dedans. Fucking stay focused.
All kidding aside, being a 30-year-old manager in a top 5 European league and guiding your team to 11th place is a massive achievement. Toulouse won their first ever Coupe de France by defeating reigning champions Nantes, and it was a 5-1 drilling at that. In fact, it was 4-0 by the 31st minute. Talk about a one-sided cup final. Shout out to Gabriel Suazo for one of the most picture-perfect assists of the season for the third goal. Not a day that will be forgotten anytime soon for those Toulouse players and the fans. And there we have it. The season's been a very interesting one, to say the least. Of course, there were far more big moments that I could possibly fit in this one video. So let me know what I missed in the comments. Here is to silly season and the actual season beyond that. Thanks a lot for watching the channel this year. Love you all. There's definitely more to come. That's all for me today. Hope you all enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.